You opened your tired eyes, groaning as they adjusted to the bright light that was streaming through your window and warming your tan skin. With a loud yawn, you rolled away from the sunlight and blinked a couple of times, clearing the sleep from your eyes, before realizing with a start that it was actually morning. You couldn't remember even falling asleep. Cove had crept through your window during the night, and the two of you spent time together, trying not to wake your parents. You must have fallen asleep while you were hanging out, but couldn't put a finger on exactly when. You wondered how late Cove had stayed before heading home. You rubbed your face and yawned again, contemplating whether you should get out of bed and get ready for the day, or stay snuggled up for a little while longer. Until your gaze landed on an instantly recognizable mop of pale green hair and you bolted upright and gasped in surprise. I think I would have expired from embarrassment if I fell asleep next to my crush. I think I would have just died. He never left! He was still there in the morning! This is trouble, this is bad. Yep, this. Your muscles refused to move an inch, and your eyes widened as you stared at Cove's sleeping form in absolute shock. If your moms found out he had slept here the entire night, you would both be in big, big trouble. Realizing quickly that you needed to get Cove out of here before your moms or Elizabeth, walked in and found him, you willed your body to get a move on and swung your legs over the side of the bed. You poked him in the face. Throw a pillow at him. Let me just whisper in your ear real quick. Probably this one. After giving him a firm shake on the shoulder, Cove's eyes flew open and he woke with a start. You scrambled out of the way as he abruptly jumped to his feet before almost losing his balance and falling back down. He recovered just as quickly and faced you indignantly.
Hey!
What was that for?
Shh!
What?
The situation dawned on him too before he even finished the word. Cove blinked at you a couple of times, his eyes growing in panic as some thought that only he could hear settled in his mind.
Oh my god!
I fell asleep!
You weren't exactly sure what to do as you watched Cove pace your room, looking around frantically. Cove stopped mid-step, and you wanted to ask what he had been searching for, but you guessed he wouldn't know the answer to that himself. Despite that, he hadn't calmed down completely. The atmosphere was still frazzled. Settle down before moms hear you! Cove nodded, his shoulders tense as he fixed you with a firm stare with his turquoise eyes. Letting out a heavy sigh, he ran a hand through his hair in exasperation. He couldn't look at you again as he spoke.
I'll see you later.
You were confused by how all of this had played out, but hoped that was true. Bye. At that, you were suddenly wrapped up in a tense embrace. As panicked as he was, this seemed to be something he couldn't forget before leaving. Thank you for the panic hug.
Thanks. Again. You're a good friend, Molly. A really good friend.
Uh-huh. Yep, friends. Mm-hmm. He firmly whispered the words into the top of your shoulder. It made you feel tingly. He must have been bent in half to do that. Since I am pretty short. But you were let go before you had a chance to respond or even fully react. In a matter of seconds, he had climbed over your bed and opened the window. A cool breeze rolled off the ocean, fluttering through Cove's hair and filling your room with its salty scent. Cove fearlessly stepped out onto the ledge. Hurry up! Good luck, sir. Good luck, and please be careful. You gulped, thinking how far the fall would be if you were to miss a single step. You weren't sure if he heard you or not, but he kept going along, one foot in front of the other, with increasing speed until his form disappeared out of sight. You stuck your head out the window as far as it could go to try keeping watch. He walked the full length of the ledge before jumping down to the top of the garage, then lowering himself onto the fence. From there, he finally dropped down to the ground. Very impressive. You grinned at the sight of his successful climb. He ran off towards his house without stopping, disappearing behind the side of another building. You had to admit that you were pretty impressed at how doable he made that look. Cove always seemed to have a way of seeming so smooth without even meaning to. Well, that's exciting. With a little sigh, you reclosed your window. Deciding there was nothing more you could do, you hopped off your bed and got ready to head downstairs for the day. Yeah, I need to examine myself in my mirror that's not hung properly in my room. You certainly looked like you had just woken up with your brown hair sticking up all over the place. Taking a comb from your bedside table, you attempted to fix and smooth down some of the messy strands. You took the stairs, slowly attempting to mask your face into a look of innocence. You were sure that someone would have come into your room if they had heard anything strange, but you couldn't be too careful. You had to play it cool. When you stepped into the living room, Elizabeth was there, tapping her finger on the counter. "Good morning, Elizabeth." She looked you over immediately, her eyes squinting at the greeting.
Why?
"Why are you being so weird? You hadn't even done anything!" Your big sister never missed a beat, unfortunately. You stopped in your tracks, heart pounding in your chest as you wondered if she could see the sweat that was building around your temples. "Molly?" Glammin'. She began to smile, thinking whatever you were hiding was bigger than she assumed.
Come on.
"What's going on?" Nothing. Further suspicious squinting occurred as she waited for something. But ultimately she rolled her eyes and you weren't sure if you were in trouble or not. She didn't seem to care enough to dig any further. Phew. Whatever. And then she walked straight out the front door, letting it slam shut behind her, and you let out a brief sigh. Phew. Elizabeth went out most days to hang out with her friends from school around town. Today you were extra glad for it, though you were also grateful she hadn't left the house any sooner and risked running into Cove. It looked like you were getting away with that. Breakfast was eaten in peace and alone. Your moms were both out by the time you had gotten up. They had left you a serving of food from the breakfast they made. Hash browns, an omelet, fruit salad, and there were a few sausage links. Let's see, what was there again? Hash browns, omelet, fruit salad, and sausage links. I would have passed on some parts. Like the fruit. You appreciated that there was variety in the meals your mom made. The parts you did have were tasty. The day lazily drifted by at home and eventually your parents returned. You pulled open the fridge again, lingering in the frosty air for a moment or two, before grabbing a bottle of ice-cold water and taking a long drink. It was a perfect, balmy summer afternoon, and you had decided to head outdoors and find something to do. You hadn't decided what that something was just yet, but you were sure something would pop up to occupy your time. As you were heading out the front door, you paused for a moment. You hadn't seen Cove since he had left that morning, and you couldn't help but think about what had happened to him. Would it be bad to go over to his house right now, or to call him to check in? You stepped out of your house, still stuck in an internal debate with yourself, when a voice caught your attention.
Hi.
Hi? Hi, Molly. Confused, you looked over to where an unrecognizable woman was waving at you, a friendly smile plastered on her face. You racked your memory for where you might have seen her before, but nothing came to mind. But she knows my name and what I look like. Not your school, or from the country club your moms took you to. You had absolutely no idea who the woman was. The woman crossed the road towards you, and you were a little unsure whether you should stay put or go back into the house and lock the door. Hi. You look lovely. Are you Cove's mom by any chance? I wonder. Has Cove mentioned me? Has Cove mentioned me to his mom? Aw, I feel so special if this is true. She's, I really like her look a lot, though. Oops, I'm sorry. Was that presumptuous? I've heard about you, but you have no idea who I am, do you? Yeah, You and Cove definitely have similar eyes. You shook your head and she removed her sunglasses to reveal sparkly ocean blue eyes. All of a sudden, she seemed a little more familiar. Man, no wonder Cove is good looking with his dad and mom looking like this. Sheesh. My son lives here, and my ex too. With a bent smile, she lifted a hand to point at the condo across the street from your own house. She was Cove's mom! You didn't know why you hadn't realized sooner, now that you'd gotten a good look at her. She seemed nice. She seemed sort of strange. She looked really young. It made sense that she was Cove's mom. She felt so different to Cove. She was super pretty. Yeah, she was super pretty. This beautiful lady was Cove's mother? Wow. No matter your thoughts on her, you still felt taken aback that she had appeared here so suddenly. Cove mentioned she was coming, but you hadn't gotten the impression it would be the very next day. Yeah, it was like they were talking about it last night, weren't they? And now she's just here? Phew. She extended a hand again, this time for you to take, and you studied the manicured fingers in front of your face and the assortment of bracelets that dangled from her wrist. I'm Kyra Priest. You can call me Kyra. Why would you not shake her hand? My goodness. You reached out and took her hand, and she shook yours firmly, grinning wide. You already know my name?
That I do.
Cove's mentioned you to me before. It's nice to officially meet you, Molly.
Cove talked to you about his mom. He hadn't mentioned how he said things about you to her. What kind of things? What has Cove said about me? The burning question. We know kind of why she's here. Let's go through the niceties. Why not? Nice to meet you too. She smiled at you fondly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. Yep, definitely his mom's son. The sound of a door opening and closing caught both your attentions, and when you turned towards the sound, it was to find Cove exiting his house, his eyes skimming the ground. Considering just how tall he had grown, you kind of figured his mom also would have been tall, but she was much more on the short side, for an adult anyway. Yes, I have some help. It's not just me. Now, I need to know, is she pretty short or very short? Cove's height must have come from his father. Typical.
My baby.
My baby, stop.
There you are. I thought you were gonna keep me standing out here all day.
You tried to catch Cove's eye as he walked towards you, but his gaze was firmly fixed on the sidewalk. When he finally crossed the road and looked up, he gave you a pitiful look. After the way he had acted last night, you knew he must be feeling pretty mixed up about this. You tried to wordlessly express that you understood.
Cove and I are heading into town to grab something to eat while the snore is at work.
The snore? Well, I mean, I'm glad you guys are at least amicable enough for you to visit, but I guess it's like not that amicable. I can see why Cove had some anger towards his dad when he was a kid. Kyra beamed at Cove and ruffled his hair, which only seemed to upset him more. You assumed the snore she was talking about was Mr. Holden.
Hey, you should come with us, Molly. I'd love to get to know you better. Yeah, you should come.
Uh-oh. There was a pleading in his tone that you couldn't miss. Please.
Of course we'll run it by your parents first. Responsibility and all that.
Any whoosies.
It'll give me an excuse to meet them, which I need to do at some point. It's important to be neighborly if I'm going to be roosting on this street for the time being. Any whoosies, let's go!
I like that, any whoosies. Kyra walked ahead towards your house, and you hung back with Cove, who crinkled his nose as he watched her.
Sorry.
I'm sorry about her, but I really do want you to come. I don't want it to be just the two of us. Not right now.
I'm trying to remember if it's... I feel like it was mentioned in the beginning of this step, but my mind is just completely drawing a blank. Did it say whether Cove, like, stopped going to visit his mom, or that the visits were a lot less? Because, like, when he was a kid, he was all about mom, and now he's just like, I don't want to be alone with this woman right now. So I'm like, I think there was something that was explained about that, but I'm just can't remember. You leaned in closer and whispered while checking around for anyone who might hear. What happened? Did your dad know you were gone? Cove shook his head and sighed heavily.
Oh, Dad was so focused on Mom showing up that he didn't even notice. I thought when I heard them on the phone last night that it was something they were planning for the future. This morning, Dad said it was supposed to be a surprise, and I guess I was surprised. She's gonna be here all summer.
Wow, all summer, okay. Oh. You were surprised to hear that too. Cove sighed again, even heavier. I'll go with you, if you really want me to. He smiled, his shoulders relaxing a little in relief.
Thanks. That'd be cool.
The two of you headed over to where Cove's mom had just knocked on your front door and stood behind her. Mom answered the door after a minute, her eyebrows lifting in surprise at the group she found in front of her. You realized that, like you, she would have no idea that it was Cove's mom who was hanging with you. However, after blinking at the woman a couple of times and looking between her and Cove, the realization seemed to strike on her.
Hello there, I'm Pamela.
I see.
I see you've met my kid, Molly. And I'm guessing you've already known Cove for a while.
Kyra laughed, and you and Cove exchanged looks at your parents' weird sense of humor. Moms.
I'm Kyra Preece, Cove's mom. It's so nice to meet you.
A head of purple-brown hair caught your eye as Ma popped up behind Mom, squeezing herself in beside her.
We have company. I was wondering what all the commotion was.
She grinned excitedly at Kyra. The two of them introduced themselves and shook hands.
Hello.
Hi, Molly. Cove.
Cove smiled at Ma shyly, and she gestured a hand towards the living room.
There's no use hanging around in the doorway. Why don't you come in? I'd love to, but I promised to take my son out to eat, and I wouldn't want to hold you up with a surprise visit. Aw, I understand. You're welcome to stop by any time.
Of course.
I'll take you up on the offer when I can. Count on it. Would you mind too much if Molly went with Cove and I? My treat. We won't be driving, just a quick walk down the road. Sure, that sounds nice.
Have fun.
I hope you all have fun.
You gave your moms a look, and they smiled at you fondly. You were annoyed. No, I'm glad they were super chill about it. You could tell that Cove really needed the support, and you were ready to be there for him.
Marvelous.
Expect us back in an hour or two. We look forward to seeing you again. Take care.
Your parents waved goodbye to the three of you as you backed up onto the street. There was the sound of the front door closing behind you.
I'm pretty positive I saw some restaurants when I was in the taxi not too far from here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them around.
The answer was straightforward, and the tone was curt. Cove was usually more lighthearted than that. Kyra put her hands on her hips and smiled at her son.
Well,
You sound like the area expert. Do you have any recommendations for a place nearby? Not really.
Kyra pouted at him a little and turned to you instead.
How about you, Molly? Want to point me in the right direction?
I'm here to help. Sure, I have a couple of favorites. You'd been to a lot of places in town, and there were a couple that stood out from all the rest. There's a Chinese restaurant that me and my family go to all the time. It's my mom's favorite. There's also a tropical-themed place that tries to be sort of fancy.
Both sound like a treat. I'll leave it to you to pick for us, since Cove is going through a phase over there.
Oof. He huffed at her and turned his face away. I'm sorry, Cove. Gosh. This is such an awkward thing to be in the middle of. It's like she's being a little overbearing, and he has, like, wants nothing to do with this. I feel like he really could care less about where they're going, and she's just like, Oh, whatever. I'm trying to insert myself here, so I'm like, oh, okay. I'm feeling tropical. Let's go there. The tropical themed place.
Thank you.
Will you show us the way?
You nodded, taking the lead of your little group as Cove and his mom followed behind you. Together, the three of you left the neighborhood behind. The walk was about 15 minutes, and along the way, Kyra asked a lot of questions about the area. Cove was quiet most of the time, so you ended up answering her instead. Kyra explained that she lived in a large city, and she loved how peaceful and relaxing everything seemed in Sunset Bird. Ooh, this is nice. The restaurant was busy as usual, but luckily you were shown right to a small table. Kyra lowered herself into the chair, while Cove picked the one diagonal to her. Not facing her, or to her side. It was awkward.
Ahem. Let's see. To start, what would you all like to drink?
I'll get an orange soda.
Noted.
Molly?
Alright, 13-year-old me. I'm definitely not drinking coffee yet. Not juice, not milk. I don't think I entered my water phase yet, so probably soda. Soda.
Which flavor?
Ooh. Not ginger ale. Ginger ale is reserved for being sick. Even now. I never liked any of the fruit sodas. So either cola or root beer. You know what? I'll go for a root beer.
Sure.
Kyra placed the order for your drinks, getting a black hot coffee for herself, and it didn't take long before they were brought to the table and set in front of you. You took a long sip of your drink as you looked around the restaurant. Your small group checked over the menus, deciding what to order. The last time you came here, the dish you ordered was amazing. You wanted to order something different this time. Oh, I'm so adventurous. Kyra and Cove didn't need any encouragement for this. They were totally focused on the information in front of them. Soon the meals too were ordered and the menus taken away. You glanced at the table surface, waiting to figure out what to say. Cove sunk back further into his seat and avoided eye contact. He started to twiddle his thumbs while acting like all this was perfectly normal. His sour feelings today were unignorable. Instead of asking more open questions he'd brush off, Kyra had mercy on her son and instead put her focus towards you.
So?
Molly, what's a few things that you're into? There's gotta be something you do for fun, especially now that you're not buried in school assignments.
My goodness. I'm really into Cove. If only I was so bold. I could only imagine the blushing that would happen from poor Cove. I like to read. I like to watch... ... Games are fun. I like to play. I hang out with people. I go to the beach. I'm into sports like music. I spend time on art. I write things. I still spend time studying fashion, and I'm really into Cove. I mean, I told my cousin that I was gonna do more beach stuff, so I go to the beach and build sandcastles, swim, look for seashells, walk along the shore, go surfing. Swim for sure.
You must be a strong swimmer since you live so close to the ocean. I find the water a little scary, but I still like to dip my toes sometimes.
I've always wanted to learn how to surf. I don't live anywhere near the ocean, so I've never gone anywhere that's been near the ocean either, so... But I've always wanted to surf. I feel like if I had lived in a beach town, I would have learned to surf. So you know what? Molly Wave Rider learned how to surf as a kid.
Oh, do you and Cove surf together?
Kyra looked at Cove expectantly, who mumbled something non-committedly and looked away again. And I do like to read. Fiction, comic, manga, magazines, non-fiction books, poetry, fiction novels.
Me too. Nothing beats curling up with a good book.
And that was basically it. And I like to watch TV, movies, stand-up comedy, plays. I like that people is an option. That's great. I do like to watch plays.
That's very interesting.
Is it? And movies. Kyra nodded her head, and you guess she must like that too. Okay. And games are fun. I like to play video games.
I don't know much about them. Maybe you can show me sometime.
You know, I was playing a lot of card games at 13, actually.
I like card games too. Maybe we can all play together sometime.
And actually, I also played a lot of board games at 13, so let's do all three of those.
That's great. We should all play a game together sometime.
This is the most talking I would ever have done. I'm into sports, like golf. My sister plays, and sometimes we talk about it.
It's so nice to do things together with your family.
Also, at 13, I got into football. There we go. I play football. It's great. And I was also doing basketball.
We drove past a big court when I was in the taxi. It looked very popular.
And I think that's that. Music, for sure. I never learned how to play an instrument, sadly. I tried to learn piano and gave up very quickly, but I listened to a lot of it. I have an MP3 player at home that my mom helped me put some music on, and I've seen some concerts.
Awesome!
And I did spend time on art. Painting, and I was just getting into charcoal at this point too.
I enjoy painting from time to time too, but I can't say I'm any good at it.
Me neither, girl. I filled out a lot of sketchbooks. I would love to learn how to do sculpting. That would be really neat. Didn't do writing. I would start studying towards the end of summer, but not really in the beginning. What is I hang out with people? Okay, I mean, I did hang out with people.
Hey, it's nice to have friends and family to spend time with.
And, I mean, yes, but I need to, I'm just gonna, you know what, I need to know for science, though. Hold on. I'm just gonna, boop, there we go. I'm just gonna do a little bit of science. I needed to know. Kyra let out a sudden laugh, and Cove gasped beside you. It was a dramatic enough inhale that he almost choked on the soda. You felt your cheeks going red. You had meant it in a normal way, but it had sounded weird saying it out loud. I'm sorry.
Ollie!
Cove whispered at you disapprovingly, obscuring part of his face with a hand, but Kyra only waved him off and encouraged you to go on. All I meant was I like hanging out with Cove. That's it.
Well, we have something in common.
Kyra smiled at Cove, who didn't look too impressed by either of you at that moment. Okay, I had to know. There's no way me at that age would ever say something like that. But I had to know what would have happened. Alright, and that's it.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to my TED Talk.
I'm happy to learn more about you. There's so much I hadn't heard. Cove leaves the details out.
So what exactly did Cove say about me? Kyra laughed, holding a hand in front of her mouth.
I can't tell you that. I didn't come all this way to embarrass my son. Too much. Kids are delicate at this age.
She laughed again, and you glanced at Cove to see his reaction. He was trying not to pay attention, but you could tell he was uncomfortable. Hoping it would clear some of the tension in the air, you decided to ask Kyra a few questions of your own. Cove hadn't told you much about her, and you were curious to know more about this woman who was such a big part of his life. What exactly do you do for work?
I'm a travel writer for magazines and things. I keep people in the loop on what's worth seeing. It's good work.
Wow. Man, both of these are such loaded questions. Especially when you, like, just met. Like, I would not have the gall. Where do you live normally?
Nevada. Have you ever been there?
You shook your head.
It's a beautiful place. Check it out if you can.
What do you like to do?
Spend time with my little boy, of course. And traveling. A real shock, huh?
And, yep, you could not, wild seahorses could not force me to ask these questions. It didn't seem to bother her that the conversation dropped off. Such an Angie boy. Cove sipped his soda angrily, slurping up the remaining drink with furrowed brows. He looked ready to run straight out of the restaurant. Dude, why are you so angry? You weren't sure if coming along had ended up making the lunch better or worse. You flicked his straw wrapper at him. I would have done one of these, probably. Not this, and not this. I'm gonna flip a coin for the smile or the sympathetic look. Heads for smile, tails for sympathy. Hiya! Heads! Alright, you get a smile. Cove eventually noticed you watching him. It took a couple of moments, but finally, he cracked a smile, and that made you feel a little lighter inside. Yay.
Very cute.
Thanks, Mom.
You two seem really cute together.
Cove covered his face with his hands and leaned back in his seat. I feel that.
Seriously?
Oh, Mom, why would you say that?
Thanks, we are cute. I would blush. Very much so. Were the two of you really cute together? Your meals were delivered shortly after that, and everything was so delicious, even Cove enjoyed his food.
Okay.
All right, now that we're all full and content, can you explain, please, why you've had a bug up your butt all day?
It's a good way to describe that. Cove's face scrunched at that.
Seriously, baby, what did Mom do to make you this mad? I haven't even been around a full day yet.
He gripped the edge of the table, refusing to make eye contact. The words he spoke were barely audible over the din of the restaurant.
You could have told me.
She leaned forward to not miss anything else, eyebrows raised.
Told you what?
He finally seemed to find his voice and spoke the thoughts that had been on his mind.
That I wasn't gonna visit you this year. That you were gonna be coming instead.
Didn't you invite me? You wanted me here with you?
Cove's eyes began to shake and his frustration ebbed.
I do want you to be around, but I didn't know it'd be like this. It's not the same, and nobody said anything.
I see.
Her expression grew tense. She threaded her fingers together and placed her hands in front of her on the table.
We've both been gifted another Clifford surprise.
Referring to that as a Clifford surprise almost caused both you and Cove to crack a smile. You also had no idea his name wasn't just Cliff. Over 5 years, nobody had ever called him Clifford until now. Clifford the big red dog. She smoothed her hair out, not letting go of her stern look.
The more things change,
The more they stay the same.
They let out identical sighs, but smiled weakly at one another afterwards.
I'm sorry.
I can go home, Cove. We can still set up a normal trip to my place before the summer ends.
Cove's lips tightly closed together. He seriously pondered the option.
I mean,
I think I do want you to stay. I miss it when you're not there.
My heart! She reached across the gap, grabbed his face, and planted a kiss on his cheek. Cove tried to wiggle away.
Mom, stop!
I'm sorry. Sweet young men need to be smooched by their parents. If I don't, they'll take away my mom license. Kyra was completely enthused by Cove's admission, though a tone of seriousness did return to her voice when the conversation continued. Do you want to talk to your dad, too?
No!
Cove had snapped the word instantly, but reeled his annoyance back in just as quickly.
Maybe later. Not today.
It's alright.
I understand. We can shelve it.
Thanks, Mom.
Thank you for talking to me, little mister.
She grinned affectionately at him before turning your way.
And thank you, Molly.
Huh? What did I do?
It's easy to act like a baby with your mom. It's harder to keep that up with your neighbor watching everything. Especially when you really care about what said neighbor thinks of you.
She winked.
Mom!
She just ruffled his hair with a laugh, then moved her hand down to tap the end of his nose. And that was how the issue was resolved, at least between Cove and his mom. Okay, so I'm getting the feeling like Cliff isn't the greatest at communication, kind of spur of the moment. Meh. He's trying. He's got the spirit, but he doesn't always execute great. When the three of you left the restaurant and Kyra had paid the bill, you walked back to your neighborhood slowly. You had eaten so much by that time, you were beginning to feel sleepy. It didn't help that the lunch had happened late, and the sun was already beginning to descend from the sky. Well, 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 if it isn't Clifford. Dang, his parents are attractive, though. But eventually, you reached your street. Someone was there to greet your group upon arrival.
Welcome back, family! And Molly, too.
Huh.
Yeah, I don't think your family is all that thrilled.
Cliff.
Dad.
Poor Cliff. I feel like patting his shoulder and being like, good luck. The two walked past him into the condo without sparing another word. Despite the summer heat, their shoulders were cold.
Uh-oh. I'm in trouble.
He rubbed the back of his neck with a crooked smile, but his eyes were soft as he looked on after them.
He's so much like his mom, don't you think?
You gave a vague nod, not sure what he was expecting you to do. He nodded back far more energetically.
Okay. Have a nice night, Molly.
You too, Mr. Holden. With that, Cove's dad disappeared to join the others inside. It was your turn to go home now. Summer hadn't started off at all how you imagined it would have, though it turned out to set the tone well. Having Kyra in the neighborhood was a new experience for not only you and Cove, but also both your families, and a dull moment was rarely had. Ah, and just like that, we made it to our moment selection screen. We got wave, growing, family, dinner, road trip, mall, birthday, summer work, escapade, and soiree. Ooh, a soiree. Fancy. I like it. Ooh. This is exciting. I can't wait for next week where we do our first moment together.